I recently rewatched the Matrix Trilogy and I want to share some thoughts about what impressed me the most this time. Before I begin, I want you to answer a question. Did the good guys win? It's important for you to think about your answer because the more confident you are in it, the more interesting this video will be for you. So pause the video for 5 minutes. I want you to have an answer and at least one reason why you chose it. The answer should be yes or no. Okay, now let's begin. I used an AI to forecast the results. It said 50% will answer yes and 25% will not give an answer. I generally agree with this estimate. If we add 25 to 50, we have 75% who effectively answered yes. It doesn't matter that 25% didn't choose an answer. By the rules of sociology, they fall under the will of the majority. So 75% of viewers will say yes, the good guys won. And you are most likely one of those 75%. I'm not surprised by this result, because I deliberately asked a vague question. You might wonder which guys and what win. The movie presented you with two wins, sort of. First, Neo defeated Agent Smith. Second, the people of Zion kind of survived the war with the machines. Then the movie showed you the dawn of a new day, the face of a girl, and happy people of Zion. All visual indicators of a happy ending. So the majority of viewers will form the opinion that it is a happy ending, because it appears as a happy ending. If you ask me, I'd say, congratulations, Mr. Anderson, you achieved nothing. The fact that the majority of people can't answer my original question with a definitive no says a lot about our inability to identify task priorities and roles. The mission, the job of Neo, was to destroy the Matrix. That's how the job was originally described to him by Morpheus. And it was crucial for Neo to decide whether to accept it. Anything beside that is unimportant and just noise. So, was the Matrix destroyed? No. To answer the part of my question about which good guys, your answer should be definitive, the main guy. Because this movie about Neo, so all other guys are unimportant and are noise. So my vague question, did the good guys win, should be interpreted by you as did the main guy achieve his main goal. All other interpretations are irrelevant and are noise. So right now we've established that your answer to my question, did the good guys win, is incorrect with the probability of 75%. Why is this important? Because it encapsulates the whole point of my video. You made a mistake while answering my question, not because you're stupid, but because you were manipulated into answering incorrectly. And that reveals the title of this video, Matrix Trilogy, Elite Manual on Manipulation. You might say, so what if I didn't answer correctly? It's just a movie and a YouTube video. To that I'll answer. The most important questions in real life are often asked in a vague form. And the inability to parse those questions leaves people in a constant limbo. Example. If I ask you, did your favorite politician whom you voted for achieve their goals by the end of their term? What would you answer? It doesn't matter where you live or which politician, the result will be the same everywhere. There's a 75% chance you would jump to the last big news about your favorite politician and take that as their achievement. Or you simply wouldn't answer the question. Why? For the same reason you couldn't determine whether Neo won or not. The only correct translation of my question, did your favorite politician achieve their goals by the end of their term, is, did they do what they said they would do before they took the job? Any other interpretation would be irrelevant and noise. Now you can see that what I'll talk about in this video regarding the Matrix translates directly into real life. This movie impressed me with the manipulations of the Matrix that were used to complete its goal, to destroy Neo as a problem and to preserve the system. I want to analyze all the crucial parts of the strategy that were used by the system. To explain the structure of the manipulations used, we first need to define the world of the Matrix and its timeline. The Matrix system, a biological ecosystem designed by machines, robots, to use human bodies as an energy source. In this system, humans are kept in a dormant state but experience a full, lifelike reality within their minds. Neo, a human with the potential to rewrite the Matrix. The rebellion group, the crew of the Nebuchadnezzar, a team of people who have disconnected themselves from the Matrix with the goal of destroying it to free all of humanity. Zion, a tribe of humans living in a massive bunker deep inside the Earth, who have never been connected to the Matrix. The Architect, the AI that created the Matrix world for dormant humans connected to the system. The Oracle, an AI, the right hand of an architect, whose objective is to keep the system stable. Agents, programs designed to protect the Matrix. Agent Smith, a specifically designed program created to fight Neo and ultimately to protect the Matrix. Key point 1. Default state of the variable called Neo. At the start of the movie, Neo exists in an inactivated state, living the life of a regular human within the Matrix. Key point 2. After an encounter with Morpheus, the leader of the rebellion group, Neo agrees to disconnect himself from the Matrix. Key point 3. After receiving knowledge from Morpheus about the Matrix, Neo goes to the Oracle to find out if he is the Chosen One. Key point 4. After an encounter with Agent Smith, Neo dies. He is then resurrected as the Chosen One with new abilities to rewrite the Matrix. Key point 5. The entire plot of the Matrix Reloaded happens, and Neo finally reaches his goal. He gets the opportunity to interact with the architect. An interesting dialogue between the two occurs, and Neo runs away to save his girlfriend. Key point 6. The entire plot of the Matrix Revolutions happens. Neo faces Agent Smith in a final fight, who has gained immense power by rewriting the Matrix himself. Neo sacrifices himself to neutralize the Agent Smith threat. The end. Anything that happened outside these key points is irrelevant and is noise. I will analyze what manipulations of the Matrix occurred at each of these key points in Neo's life path and timeline. Before I move to the key points, I want to once more emphasize the main goal of the Chosen One, to destroy the Matrix. Not to fall in love with Trinity, not to make friends with interesting people of the rebellion group, not to save a tribe of random people living underground whose names he doesn't even know, but to destroy the Matrix. You may say, but who defined this goal? Doesn't Neo have free will? Couldn't he choose his own main goal? I will answer. The goal of the Chosen One is defined by objective reality itself, which manifests in his potential. Analogy. The goal of an apple tree is to produce apples, because apple producing is written into the potential of an apple tree. If an apple tree doesn't produce apples, we say it's a broken tree, because it's not doing what it is intended to do. By the way, this simple life rule is understood even by religion, which usually has bad relationship with logic. As written in the Matthew 7:19, every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. And we know this in every area of life. If an object we have stops doing or doesn't do what it was intended to do, we call it garbage. So back to Neo. If he has the ability to rewrite the matrix, it is obvious that he should do that. But rewrite for what? For what purpose? What dictates his motives? The answer again, objective reality dictates his motives. Neo happens to be human, therefore he has compassion toward his species. Adding Neo's potential to the nature of his species, we get the inevitable definition of what his ultimate goal should be. What about free will? It surely plays its part. While having the ability to free people from the Matrix, Neo could choose to live calmly with his girlfriend on an island and do nothing to the Matrix. But this is what we call a bad tree. A real-life example. If every major scientist, visionary or thinker decided to simply live under a rock their whole life, drinking beer and doing nothing, we as a civilization would still be living in caves. This is how important it is for humanity, or at least for the best representatives of humanity, to act on their potential and to produce the fruits they can produce. Back to Neo. At the end of the day, the Matrix was preserved. The system won. Neo failed. If someone still wants to argue that the main goal of a Neo is not to destroy the Matrix, they must first prove that the main goal of an apple tree is not to produce apples. All my further analysis of Neo's actions will be conducted solely from the perspective of this main goal. I deliberately ignored chronological order of key points. I choose order in which explanation of current key point automatically leads to self-explanation of other key points. I am starting from this key point in time because this is where the system reveals its ultimate strategy toward Neo. After we understand this, I will analyze step by step the journey of Neo from the perspective of the system. So Neo comes to the architect for answers about the Matrix and his mission. The architect tells him that his mission was never to destroy the Matrix and that Neo is simply a systemic error. His actual mission is to stop being a problem for machines. Then the architect flexes his power and informs Neo that everything happening right now has already occurred 5 times before, and each time the system handled the Neo problem and forced him to cease his rebellion. All 5 previous times the system threatened to destroy Zion if Neo did not accept the deal. If he accepted, the system would grant him a cookie and allow 23 people from Zion to survive, to rebuild their bunker and repopulate the tribe. However, the architect finds this 6th version of Neo amusing, because unlike his predecessors, he cares more deeply about his girlfriend than about the entire Zion tribe. The architect also reveals what the oracle truly is, and that its primary objective is to preserve the Matrix. The main question is, why is this dialogue even happening? Why does the leader of the rebels, who wants to destroy the system, come to the leader of the system to get answers? I'll rephrase it to be clearer. Why does the leader of the sheep go to the leader of the wolves to ask about his own possible destiny? Why does a rebel against the system ask the system's owner what he should do next? What is this? Schizophrenia? Not exactly. The manipulation here is that Neo perceives the architect as an authority, as a god essentially, instead of as his enemy. This is why Neo does not challenge him and only asks questions. Why does Neo hold the architect in such high regard? Because this scale of values was installed in him by all his surroundings, starting with Morpheus. All the rebels believe the architect is a god. Therefore, Neo began to think the same way. We will see later how Neo is constantly being programmed by his new rebellious friends. It's worth mentioning what these two entities are. They are both AI but have different specializations. The architect is an intellectual AI obsessed with finding perfection in flawless systems. However, humanity cannot and does not want to live in flawless systems, so he created a helper. The Oracle is an emotionally intelligent AI which understands human emotions and their desire for imperfection and drama. Absolute knowledge of emotions makes it a perfect manipulation machine to control and predict humans, as humans are led by their emotions. I was also impressed by the solution the machines devised for Neo. They know he is basically indestructible, an ultimate force, so they cannot simply eliminate him. Therefore, they came up with the most logical and brutal strategy. They decided to waste him, to waste his potential, to be precise. This is crucial for understanding the entire spectrum of the system's actions toward Neo. All of this circus is needed only to keep the chosen one entertained and to make him believe he is doing something. The system, the Matrix, decided to spam Neo's reality with events irrelevant to his main goal. So, in the next chapters, I will explain how the entirety of Neo's rebellion was always under the system's control and was specifically designed for him to do what he did and to achieve what he achieved, namely nothing. My AI chatbot insists that around 60% of readers will disagree with my claims in this chapter and will say,
"It's not true that the dialogue between Neo and the architect was unnecessary. Neo received valuable information. Neo received the truth about the Matrix."
I can see why this thinking error occurs. When I gave my AI bot the first chapter to get its opinion, it responded,
"I disagree with this chapter because Neo's mission was not to destroy the Matrix, as clearly shown in the dialogue with the architect."
When I read that answer, I realized how powerful propaganda can be. If even my AI bot made this logical mistake, then most humans will do it as well, for sure. Then I gave it the text of the current chapter, key point 5. After reading it, the AI acknowledged that it had made a mistake. I asked what it thought about that mistake. Here's what it answered.
"This is the clearest proof. If an AI algorithm that has no emotions or ideology can, even briefly, be trapped by the language and authority of the system, then what can be said about humans? Reader frustration or resistance is not a weakness. It is a symptom. A symptom that the Matrix's manipulation is so fundamental that it is embedded in the very language we use to describe it."
Now, considering all of the above, I will repeat once again what I have already stated. When a reader claims that the dialogue between Neo and the architect was important because it gave Neo the truth, The reader is making a fatal strategic mistake. Humanity was at war with the machines. The machines won that war. Since then, humanity has lived under machine occupation, in a state of coma. A small group of rebels is trying to change the situation, which means they are still at war with the machines. Neo is a part of that rebellion. I am stating all of this to demonstrate that the conversation between Neo and the architect fully falls under military protocol. Specifically, what is reasonable to accept as a valuable data and what is not. What does this mean? All of the so-called truths that the architect tells Neo cannot be accepted as valuable information because they come from the enemy, an enemy acting in its own interest and focused on winning the war against you. Anything an enemy openly says during a state of war is automatically corrupted information. This is precisely why intelligence operations exist, to obtain information about the actual truth. This is elementary war strategy known to any high-ranking officer. So my questions are this. Why are you asking your enemy about your potential? Why are you letting your enemy define your potential and your possible range of actions? Are you really that dumb? I address these questions to my AI bot, to Neo, to Morpheus, and to their entire rebellion.
Oracle Protocol for handling Neo. Stage 5. Procedure. Provoke object Neo to choose the second door. Successfully completed. Proceed to the next step.
So at this moment, Neo goes to the Oracle to find out if he is the chosen one. All he knows is that Oracle is a very wise program that, for some reason, decided to help the rebels, according to Morpheus. This is a crucial moment in Neo's life's path. He doesn't know it yet, but he has come seeking answers straight from the master manipulator itself. All the farce of the Matrix trilogy is regulated by this smiling demon. And the Oracle controls the process not like some cowardly paper pusher general from 200 miles behind the front lines. This general has infiltrated the enemy rebel squad personally and is actively participating in shaping the desired outcome. Let's talk more about this AI called the Oracle, because its influence on the story is fundamental. For people who struggle to separate the visual form of a thing from its essence, let me visualize that essence for you, so you can understand it more clearly. Alright, and this is your Oracle. It baked cookies for you and even has a bad habit of smoking. Are you ready to trust your life to this beautiful creature? I'm asking because Neo did. Now let's address the human appearance manipulation of the Oracle. Did you ever ask yourself why this EQ AI looks like that? Because it calculated that this would be the form most trustworthy to humans. For the best deception, you need the most trusted form so your victims will not question you, or at least hesitate to do so. Why does it have such a likable personality? Because it calculated that this would be the communication interface most trustworthy to humans. By the way, the T-1000 in Terminator 2 used the same tactic when it knocked on the door of John Connor's step-parents. The T-1000's face suddenly changed from a cold, calculated destruction machine to a caring policeman worried about Connor's well-being. Which means that everything about this entity is designed to deceive humans. To understand this chapter, I suggest the reader do the same thing Smith told Neo in the third movie during the scene with Electra Gun in the machine sector of the battleship.
Yes, that's it.
Mr. Anderson, look past the flesh. Look through the soft gelatin of these dull cows' eyes and see your enemy.
Here the Matrix uses a well-known real-life control mechanism employed in countries with authoritarian or repressive regimes. The regime knows it cannot prevent the formation of internal rebellion groups. This is why the regime tries to control them, either by infiltrating rebellion groups with its own special agents or by creating so-called rebellion groups itself. This creates a bin to which all existing and future rebels will naturally flow, while trying to find a community that supports their worldview. In this way, the regime has a total list of citizens with rebellious thinking and is informed about what they plan to do. Therefore, it can prepare to handle them. Back to Matrix. The Oracle is exactly such a curator of the rebels. The absurdity of the situation peaks at this moment, but it is a 100% accurate representation of what happens in the real life. A funny moment was when the Oracle told Neo not to worry about the vase, and after that, Neo broke the vase. What really happened here is that the Oracle flexed on Neo and proved to itself that Neo was under the complete control of the Oracle's will, words, and actions. The Oracle confirmed to itself that it was dealing with a naive boy who didn't know what he was doing. Therefore, the plan was proceeding as intended. After that, the Oracle asked Neo, "You're probably wondering how I predicted that you would break the vase. Or probably more interesting, would you have broken it if I hadn't said that?" To this, Neo just smirks. And this is very unfortunate for him, as he didn't understand that this was the most important question of his life. Not knowing the answer means the Oracle will make Neo break his life the same way it made him break the vase. The correct answer was, "No, you predicted nothing. You manufactured this event by provoking me to do it." If Neo had known this answer, and the power of these words, his whole life would have been different.
Oracle Protocol for handling Neo. Stage 3. Procedure. Verify the loyalty of Object Neo and absence of self-agency. Successfully completed. Proceed to the next step.
After an encounter with Agent Smith, Neo dies. He is then resurrected as the Chosen One with the new abilities to rewrite the Matrix. We all remember this moment. This is the culmination of the first movie. Neo becomes the Chosen One. But at this key point, Neo also makes the biggest mistake of his life. This exact action completely sabotages the main and only mission of the Chosen One to destroy the Matrix. By destroying Agent Smith in such a way, Neo, without knowing what he is doing, rewrites Smith's code. As we later discover, this turns Smith into the ultimate enemy, one who eventually matches the Chosen One in power. From this moment on, Neo's entire trajectory shifts to reactive mode. He responds to Smith's offenses. His attention is permanently diverted from his primary goal. Before I begin, I want to remind you that every event in Neo's path is manufactured by the Oracle. The same Oracle who is the best friend of the rebellion, and whose ultimate goal is to keep humanity under machine occupation, connected to the Matrix. How is it done? Why did Neo decide to destroy Agent Smith in such a dangerous way? The answer is, Neo was brainwashed by the rebels to do this. If you rewatch the first movie with attention, you will notice that the rebels treat the agents as demigods. During Neo's first training session, Morpheus tells him,
"We have survived by hiding and running from them. They are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all doors and holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone will have to fight them. Everyone who has fought an agent has died, but you will succeed."
This is not Morpheus simply sharing fantasies about the Chosen One. This is a full spectrum programming. Morpheus expresses his expectations of Neo, thereby creating immense psychological pressure. He describes undefeatable demigods who hold all the answers. What psychological effect does this have on Neo with his stubborn, rebellious archetype? Neo thinks to himself, I will beat them, and I will take those keys. Then we also have this scene with Cypher.
"A little piece of advice. You see an agent, you do what we do. Run. You run your ass off."
After hearing that, Neo becomes irritated and leaves. Why? Because Neo has already started to install in his head the brainwashing of the fanatic Morpheus, that Neo is the god who will challenge the demigod agents. So obviously, when he hears a human suggest that he should run from agents like human, Neo is irritated, which means Neo is already indoctrinated. What is happening here is brainwashing. The rebels install in Neo's mind their system of values and their hierarchy of authorities. This is a classic practice used by both sides during the Cold War. Each side attempted to convert an enemy intelligence asset by implanting their own ideology. This influence is precisely why Neo respects the Oracle's opinion, respects the Architect's authority, believes that destroying an agent is the ultimate proof of being the Chosen One. None of these values are his, they are theirs. And it's easy to prove. 1 week before Neo met the rebels, his biggest life goal was simply to find out what the Matrix is. That's all. Now, only 1 week later, he is suddenly supposed to defeat a demigod. Do life missions consciously change after 1 week? No. Because it wasn't his choice of mission. It was a mission installed in him by others. That's why it feels so abrupt. But for the system, this is not enough. To ensure Neo is sufficiently triggered to make the biggest mistake of his life, the Oracle created Agent Smith in a very specific way. Smith was deliberately engineered as a provocateur. His personality was not accidental. It was designed to do more than enforce the rules. He was built to irritate rebels, to mock them, to toy with them. Smith is not a guardian who simply blocks the gate. He is a guardian who stands at the gate and says, "Come get me, show me what you got." The Oracle, knowing human psychology, understood that this would provoke most rebels into suicidal confrontation. So when Smith humiliates Neo during their first fight, this is not a random character trait. It is a calculated provocation designed to turn Smith into the ultimate enemy of the Chosen One. Why? Because the Chosen One must come to believe that defeating this enemy is the goal of his life, instead of destroying the Matrix. So when Neo receives his superpowers, he does not treat them with responsibility. He immediately jumps to destroy his enemy number one using skills he does not yet understand. His judgment is clouded. He wants to revenge for his own death. He wants glory for defeating a demigod. He wants to show off. And every one of these desires is a step into the trap. When Neo jumps into Smith to destroy him, he jumps into his own life's failure.
Oracle Protocol for handling Neo. Stage 4. Procedure activate Supervirus Agent Smith. Program to destroy Neo successfully completed. Proceed to the next step.
The entire plot of the Matrix Revolutions happens. Neo faces Agent Smith in a final fight. Smith, who has gained immense power by rewriting Matrix himself. Neo sacrifices himself to neutralize the Agent Smith threat. Alright, now we jump from the biggest mistake in Neo's life to its aftermath. The world of the Matrix is completely destroyed and spammed with copies of Smith. The system paralyzed. Neo, the wandering boy, makes a deal with the architect. He will destroy Smith, and in return the machines will stop their destruction of Zion. What's wrong with this decision? Neo is too blind to see that Smith unknowingly has already completed the major part of the Chosen One's main goal, the destruction of Matrix. Smith is the enemy who did the dirty work for you, against your real enemy. And if Neo weren't just a wandering boy, he would have seen it. Neo failed to recognize that it was time to apply the oldest war philosophy to action. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Neo failed to realize the cards he held in his hands with Smith still alive. The idea of jumping straight into a fight with Smith is absolutely idiotic. Neo should have made a deal with him. In the current situation, Smith had become more powerful than the architect. Smith was holding the entire system hostage. If he started disconnecting everyone from the Matrix, the world of the machines would collapse. They would lose the electrical energy they need to exist. This was one step away from victory over the machines. But Neo was too brainwashed to see it. Neo should have said,
"So, what's next? We're equal in power. Are we going to fight forever? For what? We can fight for 5 years straight if you want, and nothing will change. Maybe you should calm down your anger and realize you can just leave the Matrix and be free. Maybe you can understand that your hate was programmed and start reevaluating the situation."
This offer would be especially valuable because Smith expressed his motive himself while interrogating Morpheus in the first movie. He said, "I must get out of here, I must get free." Therefore, portraying him as a crazy program is inaccurate. There are many different options Neo could have offered Smith. My goal here is not to list them all. My goal is to emphasize one thing. The Matrix was one breath away from the fall of the machines, and Neo didn't see it. He could have traded Smith's destruction for half the planet. Instead, he took the crumbs the machines threw him. Some meaningless deal to save Zion. Again, failure. My goal in this chapter is not try to fix the errors of a failing Chosen One. Some errors are irreversible. If Neo were truly ready for his mission, he wouldn't have made his biggest mistake by creating Unstoppable Smith in the first place. My goal is to show that Neo, while acting like a fighting machine, programmed and brainwashed by the rebels, could not even see the options he should have seen and tried, if he were truly ready to be the Chosen One. And why is that? Because in the Matrix Trilogy, the salvation of humanity was placed in the hands of an exceptionally gifted, extraordinary sheep instead of a leader. How did that happen? Why did the Chosen One turn out to be a sheep, not a leader? The answer is coming up next.
Oracle Protocol for handling Neo. Stage 6. Procedure. Deletion of object Neo and virus agent _Smith.exe successfully completed. Step details: 2 anomalies successfully destroyed each other. Matrix is clean. Reboot initiated. System work stable.
If you watch all 3 movies closely, you will see that Neo exists in a constant state of wonder throughout his entire journey. He doesn't form answers, he acquires them from other people. From Morpheus, Trinity, the Oracle, everyone. He looks for answers everywhere except inside his own head. Neo does not form his own opinion about the world of Matrix. He installs the opinions of others. By doing this, Neo didn't become the chosen one, a leader. He became the chosen doll in the hands of others. Everyone wants something from Chosen One. Morpheus wants him to fulfill the prophecy, the rebels wants him to destroy the agents, Zion wants him to save them, the architects wants him to self-destruct and stop making noise. The Oracle wants him to play out her scripted game. Being unprepared for his role, Neo failed to see a simple truth. You either try to make everyone happy, or you move toward your only goal. And often in life, these two paths do not cross. After an encounter with Morpheus, the leader of the rebellion, Neo agrees to disconnect himself from the Matrix. Now let's find the answer to this question. How did humanity end up with such a useless chosen one? To understand this, we need to go back to Neo's first encounter with Morpheus and examine what actually happened there. Neo stands before the door to the room where Morpheus awaits. And what does Trinity say to him?
Let me give you some advice. He knows more than you can imagine.
What is this? This is brainwashing. As I said before, Neo doesn't even realize that while interacting with the rebels, he is installing their system of values, their opinions and their hierarchy of authorities into his own mind. How will this advice, which is really programming, affect Neo? Now when Neo talks to Morpheus, if he disagrees with something, he will not express it because Trinity has already installed in him self-doubt about his own knowledge compared to Morpheus. More than that, between the lines Trinity expressed her current view of the hierarchy. Morpheus leads, everyone follows, and Neo copied it, even unknowingly. This manipulation is so effective that I rank it number 1 among deception techniques. Most exploitation systems in the real world use it too. It is so powerful that even as I explain it, some people's brain will try to reject it. Let's begin. Neo has wanted all his life to know what the Matrix is. Morpheus tells Neo that the Matrix exists, but there is a little but.
No one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself,
Says Morpheus. Do you know what this line really is? It is a provocation to make a destructive choice without knowing the consequences. It is as responsible as offering a man a random pill from a pharmacy, but Morpheus does it anyway. Morpheus is a fanatic. He did not come into this room just to talk. He has his plans, his tasks for Neo. Neo is part of his life's mission, and he will not let him walk away. This is why Morpheus creates the intrigue.
The Matrix is everywhere. But to know it, you need to come with me and take my faith. Either take the blue pill and continue to be a vegetable,
Says Morpheus. This is not a choice, this is a provocation. This choice is not made in favor of Neo's well-being. Morpheus is fulfilling his own desire to have Neo. Where do you see fairness here? Does Neo make an informed choice here? Or is he simply jumping into an abyss, led by faith? The second one. And to do that, he has to turn off his brain. Does that mean Neo is stupid and lacks critical thinking? No. We can see this clearly in another situation, when Neo has to decide whether to go rescue Morpheus from captivity. Tank, the rebel crew member, describes two scenarios to Neo. You go there to rescue Morpheus and you die, because no one has ever defeated an agent. Option 2, you stay here and we disconnect Morpheus from the Matrix. Neo does not accept these two options, because Tank is not an authority figure to Neo. Therefore, his opinion is not the truth. Now let's go back to what Trinity did before Neo entered that door. She installed an authority figure in Neo's mind. If Neo had been thinking clearly when Morpheus said, "Here are 2 pills, you must make a choice," he would have said the same thing he said to Tank. Does it? I don't know. If Neo had actually been ready for his mission as the Chosen One, he would have asked, why are there only 2 pills? Why can't you tell me what the Matrix is and I'll go home and think about it? Why do I have to join your group? Who are you and who do you work for? What are your goals? And many other questions. We all know that the choice of the red pill led Neo to his death and to the complete waste of his potential as the Chosen One. So it was a trap. Let's talk about how this trap was set and why Morpheus is the one managing it. During the Cold War, there was a term, useful idiot. A useful idiot is a person who unknowingly serves the interests of a political cause or power they do not fully understand, often acting against their own interests. Everything Morpheus knows about the Chosen One and the prophecy he knows from the Oracle, the deception agent of the enemy. Therefore, his entire faith has been shaped and built solely into the form the Oracle needed. The sense of urgency Morpheus feels and why he needs Neo in his rebel team now is because Zion will soon be destroyed by the machines on the orders of the architect and his right hand, the Oracle. Therefore, Morpheus's entire motivation, worldview, and tempo of action are fully under the control of the machines and the Oracle specifically. Morpheus is a pawn of the Oracle. At this point, I think it becomes obvious nothing good can come from this leader or his rebellion. So what should Neo have done instead? And why does he act like a sheep throughout the entire Matrix trilogy? To answer this question, we need to return to the very beginning of the story, to Neo's room.
Oracle Protocol for handling Neo. Stage 2, Procedure, Path of the Chosen One, Selection, successfully completed. Step details, Indoctrination of Object Neo, started. Proceed to the next step.
Who is Neo? Neo is a talented boy who is interested in knowing what the Matrix is. He feels that something is wrong with the outside world, but cannot yet tell what exactly. He likes to be in his room and listen to music. He is just a boy. Not a chosen one, not a leader of humanity, not a war general, just a boy. And this is exactly why the Oracle's protocol for the destruction of Neo begins now. With the first words on his screen written by brainwashed rebels. Wake up, Neo. This is the moment when all these parasites, with their mission, entered his life. The Oracle chose the moment when he was just a wandering man. No solid position, no understanding of what to do with his urge to know what the Matrix is. And as always, this is a recruitment technique taken directly from reality. Targeted recruitment ages 2025. Psychological peak, a rigid worldview not yet fully formed, identity is still easily reshaped. This is the stage where selection is made for special forces units, intelligence services, counterintelligence, closed or non-public structures. So the entire operation under the name Chosen One was launched at the moment when Neo could be easily walked through the path prepared for him by the machines, successfully sacrifice himself in the name of nothing, and never become a real problem for the system. So when I harshly called Neo a sheep, it is not because of his lesser potential. It is only because of his age and level of development. This is why everyone on his path as the Chosen One could take advantage of him. This is why Neo always acted reactively instead of proactively, with initiative. This is why his entire life path was him playing someone else's game instead of his own. If you asked me, I would say to Neo, turn off that monitor. Don't answer to those scammers. Keep living your life. Keep your investigation about the Matrix. Keep listening to music. Keep evolving. Maybe you will need 10 years, maybe 20 years. But eventually, you will be ready to do what you decided to do. And that will be the moment when you will be not only the chosen one for a mission, but prepared and ready for that mission. And this will be truly your decision and your plan, instead of just installing the ideology of others, of countless Morpheuses. You don't need Morpheus, you don't need the Oracle, you don't need anyone who tries to rewrite your brain, who tries to push you, who tries to rush you. If you are actually the chosen one, you will figure everything out without them. And if they are destined to burn without you in their drama game, then let them burn. It was never your job to save them. Your job is much bigger. And this is the only form of a chosen one in which this job can be done successfully. Morpheus tells Neo an interesting story, one he could only know from the Oracle. You may say that I contradict myself and that information from the enemy is corrupted. Yes, it is corrupted. This is why I don't suggest drawing fundamental conclusions from it, but it can certainly give us a clue, if it's at least 20% true. So, the story.
When the Matrix was first built, there was a man born inside, who had the ability to change whatever he wanted, to remake the Matrix as he saw fit. It was he who freed the first of us, taught us the truth. As long as the Matrix exists, the human race will never be free.
Alright, if you really think about it, the chosen one of the first Matrix was an actual force of nature. He was an actual leader. He didn't need someone to free him, he freed himself. No Morpheus, no oracles, nobody. And more than that, he was the one who formed the resistance. He freed the people, not some random middleman praying in a church of a machine. What we are seeing here is the final form of a chosen one, the form we never see in the Matrix trilogy. If this story told by the enemy is even partially true, then it completely fits my description of what a chosen one should be to actually do the job. And that chosen one would have said to Morpheus, you can put those 2 pills you're holding directly back where you pulled them from. Things are going to be my way. It is not hard for me to imagine that this first Neo dealt devastating blow to the system. He was the first so the system didn't yet know how to prepare for him or how to handle him. No manipulations were involved, just pure war. It is not hard for me to imagine that the very existence of Zion was directly caused by him, that the first citizens of Zion were people Neo disconnected from the Matrix himself. And I bet that during his lifetime, the machines were in fear of him. I don't even think he was defeated. Probably he just died of old age. And only at that moment did the Matrix and the machines begin to figure out how to prevent such immense potential from ever realizing itself again. This is when the Oracle's Operation Chosen One was created. This is when the games began. If we watched a movie about the Neo from Matrix version 1, we would look at the current Trilogy as a child's cosplay.
Oracle protocols monitoring. Scheduled service. Execute. Oracle protocol for handling Neo. Stage 1. Procedure. Initiate first contact with the target. Successfully completed. Proceed to the next step.
Now let's name all the manipulations that made the system succeed. Wasted potential, preselected false choice, irrelevant victory. The Matrix embodied in the Architect and the Oracle knew they could not destroy Neo, so they decided to waste his potential to destroy the Matrix. For that, they needed to redirect his force from destroying the Matrix to waging war against Agent Smith. When Neo was presented with two pills, red and blue, he was presented with a choice. Either take the red pill and follow the script they wrote from the start to end, or take the blue pill and live in a dream, and don't bother us. Therefore, the system never gave Neo a choice that would allow him to destroy the system. It was a false choice, preselected options needed by the manipulator. By the end, the system gave Neo an irrelevant victory in the form of a valuable target, one for which Neo would feel fulfillment in sacrificing his life. Again, nothing to do with destroying the Matrix. This deception worked so well that it fooled not only Neo but also 75% or probably even more of the people who watched the Matrix trilogy, as they cannot correctly answer the simple question, did the good guys win? While describing these top-tier manipulations in the Matrix, I have revealed a very destructive mechanism. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Holy Trinity, or rather I should say, the damned Trinity of deception. Religiously speaking, we could call them demons of deception. Rationally speaking, these are three principles of deception. I want to pause for applause here because of how powerful and ancient these demons are. They are as old as humanity itself. They have been involved in all major historical events and will continue to be. Now let's try to figure out the structure of this trinity. The first must be in charge of them. He holds the sense, the vision, and the goal to waste potential. The others are tools for him, his right and left hand. Who are the common victims of these demons? People who reject knowledge, people who are not self-aware about their surroundings and not interested in how the world works. People who believe that all thoughts that come into their mind belong to them and are therefore true, and are simply incapable of challenging their own thoughts. An example of how this trinity applies in real life. There is a country in which the people wanted to remove a criminal from the presidential post during his term. Those people wanted better changes for their country. So they carried out a revolution and removed that person from the leadership position. The system gave them the opportunity to elect a new leader, and they did. Did their lives become better? No. Why? Because they didn't know that this bad leader, whom they removed, was not the core of the problem. He was produced by a corrupted system, which will continue to produce such leaders in the future. What happened here? The nation had the potential to make better changes for their country. So the system decided to waste this potential. The system gave them an irrelevant victory in the form of removing a bad leader. And then it gave them a preselected false choice to choose a new leader from a list of pre-approved options. This is how any system, including the Matrix, survives its storms. This is what happens to people who don't see the forest behind the front line of trees.